Okay, and I believe we are live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. Let me get my software working here. And this is Joe Milton with the International Society of Professional Wedding Photographers, ISPWP. And this is our ongoing series of interviews with some of our wedding photographer members. And today we have the great pleasure of talking to Wayne Denton. Now, help me if I got the name right. Is it more of a Duane or a Duane, or how is that? How do you like to?
Duane.
Duane. Just the way it looks. Okay.
Just
Yeah.
do. Yeah, everybody asked me on which part of your name is
Right.
does it, do you need to express it more?
Or it's like
It's just
Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, right?
that's it.
And Duane comes from originally from Cape Town, but now in New York. So we want to start, I guess, talking about your background in Cape Town and your move to New York. So give us a little bit of intro to yourself and how long you've been doing photography, and we'll go from there.
Right. Hi, everybody. Um, so yeah, about 14 years ago, I started my business in wedding photography. And just before that time, I studied graphic design, and photography formed part of my journey, it was part of my subjects at that stage. And I didn't really actually realize I was kind of blind to my skill of photography. I've always been a person that I would say my strength is to be more visually strong in that, because design has so many elements, from communication design to illustration, and visually, I think I could easily rather take a photo and put design elements together, or visually put together a website or something like at that stage. And photography, helped me at that stage, but I never saw it actually. And my one friend, very good friend, and who's also my mentor, and now currently I work alongside him in New York, Jean-Pierre Ace. He he's just he had a wedding photography business in South Africa, photographing weddings, and he was quite popular at that stage 14 years ago. And he had a look at my work, and he just said, "Why don't you try wedding photography?" And I started photographing a couple of weddings, and here I am 14 years later, still doing it and still loving what I'm doing.
That's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so a long history then. So, about how many weddings per year would you say you've been shooting, especially like recently? What's your volume level?
I think obviously my volume has usually been so between like 20 to 30 weddings a year. The last year I've just scaled down a little bit, just to, as you know, the move to New York with my family. I felt it was, wanted to obviously spend first time with them, but also I kind of just wanted to step back a little bit. And actually, it was actually good for me just to kind of find myself. I think we all go through stages, and I think most photographers would relate to that, or even creatives.
Sure.
That it's like sometimes things or change in our life, or a massive series of events, and you just realize, okay, you just step a little bit back and you ask yourself, okay, how do we go forward from this? And my idea for it now this year was just to actually stand back, second shoot with other great photographers in New York, work alongside my boss and my friend Jean-Pierre Ace, and also just to see where I want to take it from here.
That's actually great advice. A lot of photographers will, I guess, develop a style, or I don't know if I want to say getting into a rut is the exact correct way to put it, but they'll get into a pattern maybe. And although they may develop a certain comfort level of being in that pattern of shooting, or that rut, so to speak, What you're doing is stepping back, reevaluating, and taking advantage of learning opportunities. It can open your eyes and take you off in a different direction altogether.
Absolutely. And there's even been times where I've assisted one or two great photographers this year. And I mean, for some people, they think, I mean, you've achieved so many things around the world and you've traveled the world and you've won awards, but now you step back and you go assisting again. And I think that it's almost like, I know, there's a bunch of TV shows where, the boss steps down and he goes, at the entry level and he works where everybody.
Yeah. Undercover Boss.
Yeah. Undercover Boss. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Love that show.
And it's actually, I think it's a good place because as a photographer, I can see, what is needed again from, assistants. And if I ever have to use a second shooter or assistant again, I know how to instruct them better because, it's, and also, just adding or grabbing somebody from the street and say, hey, can you hold a light stand for me? Sometimes it doesn't work or it doesn't work to your advantage. If you have somebody that has the skill to know exactly what you need and when you need it, that I think is important.
Yeah, you get a whole new appreciation for your assistants, right?
Absolutely. As you said earlier, Joe, as well, sorry to interrupt, but we sometimes get into a rut. I think doing this for over 14 years, there's a lot. The industry has changed so much over the last 14 years. I mean, 14 years back, I started shooting in film and digital just came into the market. And suddenly we were confronted with, do we shoot, do we move over to digital? Do we still shoot film? Or, those type of things. But also, I think society just keeps on adding more and more onto us as photographers, like social media, blogs, and album designs, and all these things just keep piling up. And, and the demands for what we need to do just gets more and more and more. And sometimes, a lot of photographers find that they get burned out. And I think it's great to, take this time as well, just to think how, there's times where I almost said, I'm done with wedding photography. And I think most people also did the same thing. But I realized this is, it's not just something that you can, for me, I feel like it's a talent and it's something I'm passionate about. And it's like a great musician walking away and saying, I'm done making music.
Yeah. Do you have some insights now, if you've been doing some second shooting or some assisting up to this point? Do you have a sense of specific things that you will be changing in your photography or in your business that you have taken away? In other words, what new direction do you feel like you're going into, or what changes do you think you need to make, either for you, for your photography, or your business, or your clients? Where is your head right now?
Great question. Well, I think basically, having photographed with a couple of different photographers, I can also it gave me an opportunity to see what works in their business. And also to see, kind of what are the things that I can, take from what the way that they might be photographed or the way they handle clients. But also, in terms of their style. So, I still have my style, but I think
sure.
Now being in New York City, it is a challenging, it's a credible place to photograph. It can be challenging from times because you're in a busy city. There's constantly people around you and you still need to make everything look like there's nobody there, or, or you would photograph in a dark, big, dark hole or a venue. And I had to learn to shoot more flash, or to learn how to use my flash better, where in South Africa, the light situation is just so much better there. We shoot mainly available light up until a certain point, and then I used to shoot a lot of off-camera flash in the buildings. But here, I also, I had to learn how to shoot more either on camera flash or just hold the flash and shoot with a transmitter.
Mm-hmm.
Just as well, I also felt this as the group of people here, the weddings and the events here is more socially driven. I think it's more a case of, everybody loves to be photographed. And that's just so strange for me in some ways, because in South Africa, people are a little bit more reserved in some ways, especially when it comes to the guests, not the couple itself, but the guest itself always felt to me like you kind of have to just stay on the outskirts and try to capture them naturally. And if they do notice you, it's kind of like they give you the eye. It's like, hey, leave me alone.
Right.
But I kind of feel here, people walk into the door and they expect you to photograph them, and they come with a smile. Says, "Oh, take our picture."
Mm-hmm. So it's both a difference in geography in terms of the weather and the light and everything, but also a change in culture in the way people approach the photographer or interact with the photographer. So you've made some adjustments. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. That always fascinates me how, for running an international association like ISPWP, it's always fascinating to me to see the vast differences, because you'll see trends of style, right, by location.
Right.
You'll see a certain style in China versus, Germany versus, California. It's fascinating to me. And a lot of it, I think you're right, it is driven by your location and by the culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the great thing that I have been fortunate to, over the last 14 years, travel around the world, and especially photographing weddings around Africa. And I mean, there's so many different tribes and people from different cultures, even in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always for me a great place to, I always loved just observing the different traditions in weddings.
Sure.
Different countries and cultures, and to see, well, what is important to them. We as photographers can easily come to them and say, this is my agenda. I want this and this and this. I want to photograph this and this and this. But then again, you throw away all these beautiful other cultures and the way that they, the things that are important for them in a wedding or on a wedding day.
Yeah.
So,
and I say this often, it's one of the hallmarks or one of the differentiators of wedding photography versus a lot of other photography, like landscape photography or commercial photography. They all have their place and their skill sets. But in wedding photography, it's people and culture and tradition. Those are the types of things that wedding photographers naturally sort of gravitate towards. You have to like that aspect of humanity to enjoy wedding photography.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. What do you do then since you've been in for a long time? I can see that the assisting and the seconding for other photographers helps you stay fresh. But what else do you do besides that? Is there any other activities or exercises or things that help you stay fresh or keep you inspired from an artistic perspective?
Yes. What I've been doing for at least the last 9 years is, I think, of my photography. I started doing a lot of style shoots and playing around with the element of fashion. And it just came with me just meeting up with a lot of vendors in the industry at that stage in South Africa. And I would just go over to them and say, I want to just play around with ideas, because, I mean, on a wedding day, you are limited to the time that you have to photograph, or to limited to what, to obviously your capabilities.
Right.
Capabilities.
There is a schedule. So you got to stick to the schedule.
Yes, there's a schedule. And with a style shoot, I can easily, try new ideas or try a new technique with my camera, try a new technique with, you know, or play around with a composition, or, just do something fresh. And I think a lot of my clients started valuing that I don't just photograph just weddings. But and it's a great place for me to do that too, because I draw a lot of the elements that I've done here in my style shoots and my fashion shoots into the wedding day. And then I can, direct the client and tell them, the bride maybe the lighting is so nice, and, there's a beautiful setting and the dress is just doing something incredible. Just stand there and you just snap a picture. I think also, by traveling the world, I would say I enjoy street photography and travel photography. I think my essence of, photographing a wedding, it's more for me about the composition, but also the atmosphere, creating an overall picture. And to travel around, even in my local neighborhood, or, to go into the city now that I'm in New York, or when I am overseas, to kind of have a conversations with the locals and ask them what is great food to eat, or what is, what are sites to maybe go see that the tourist doesn't know. Like, I'm not necessarily going to Times Square. I'm literally going to corners or places that I felt photographically this inspires me, and just kind of hang out in those spots. And doing a lot of, street photography that helped me.
Yeah, I think what you're pointing to is, to be a good wedding photographer, you need to spend the time and the money and the energy and the effort to do, like you said, travel, styled shoots, push the boundaries of your skill in other areas, and bring that back to the wedding photography, because it will influence you and it will enhance what you're able to do, right? So for someone, say, that has never, like a newer wedding photographer, and say that they have never done a styled shoot before. So walk through some of the logistics of exactly how that happens. How do you get that set up? How you arrange all the details? If someone came to you and said, I want to do a styled shoot, but I've never done one before, what would you say?
Right. Well, what I would suggest is, obviously, the best advice I can give is to approach vendors that has, that you look up to, but also have, that you can see have that same quality or style that you want to photograph. And just, communicate with them and say, you really love what they do in whether it's flowers or dress or design or makeup. Can we maybe collaborate on a shoot together? And a couple of times, I recently did a shoot now in New York, where it's myself and a South African designer, a fashion designer, and a South African makeup artist that I've built up that relationship over years. And now that I'm in New York, they just said, we want to come for just a couple of weeks, have fun, but we want to shoot. And I came up with a model. I came up with locations, and they did all their homework. Again, we kind of sat together as well, and to kind of plan, what is the style that we want to shoot? What is, was fortunate to get, a little bit of details or photographs from the designer, just kind of how the dresses are going to look, so that I could put each dress in a different location, but that works together well with that dress. And the makeup artist could, again, apply makeup and change the makeup to fit each outfit, but to also suit each location. And I think in the end of the day, if you have a good team and that are willing to, you say, look, it's, to come together and to say, hey, let's all create something together. and it's
And
kind of a great
sharing the
process.
benefits of the photos that come out of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I mean, besides, being a great photographer, I cannot do it without, it's the same as most people say, you need a good makeup artist.
Right.
I think we all share the credit in the end of the day. I can take a good photo, but I couldn't have done it if the makeup artist did a great job or the designer made that incredible dress. It's when you look at a photograph, it's just, and you dissect all the elements, it's really like, it's a team effort.
It's true.
And I think it's also important in that when you go into something like this, that everybody understands their place, that you, if you have maybe somebody that is a little bit, I wouldn't say diva, but that everybody is on square ground, that everybody understands this is what we are going to do it for, and that you set those boundaries beforehand, that on the day that that you're busy with a team effort, not just somebody that kind of rules the whole show.
Yeah, it's a team. But it sounds like the bottom line too for someone who's never done it before would be to tell them it's a lot of work to put this together. Oops, I think I lost Dwayne. I'm going to call him again.
Oh, sorry. I'm
There
sorry
he
about
is. No problem.
my phone was connected.
That's okay. I got you right back instantly, so no problem. We are still on. Okay. So the point I was trying to make was I'm getting a beep. Reconnecting.
Hey, we live again?
We are live again. We're still on. Sorry for the technical
Sorry for
difficulties.
that.
That's okay. We'll edit that out of the YouTube version.
I'm like, it's like, whew.
That's okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so we were talking about the styled shoots and
Yes.
and the benefits you're getting out of that and the effort that it puts into that. So I think that's good advice for people to have if they've never done it before. It's definitely worth the effort. It sounds like.
Right.
Yeah. What about so when you do go and shoot a wedding? So you have a client, you have all this, expertise and practice and from styled shoots from all your years of wedding photography. When you walk into a new wedding with a new client, right? What's important to you? What is going through your mind? How do you approach a wedding client today?
Approaching a wedding client is, it's obviously, I try and treat it as, a unique experience every time, because you don't want to, that's the incredible thing for me about weddings. It's even though there is a certain part that is kind of the same, family pictures, the schedule of the day is kind of running almost the same in most cultures. But I mean, each culture there's differences. I mean, you're working with unique people, and that's what's great for me is that I can photograph a wedding at the same venue or twice in a week's with a week's difference in between them. But the way that I photograph it is what I've done for the wedding the week before, I throw that out of the window and I approach this wedding as new, because this client is maybe more energetic than the client who got married at the same venue
Mm-hmm.
a week before. Their guests are different. Their decor are different. What is important to them are different than the one that you just photographed the week before. And, that's the great challenge for me. It's just to kind of, and somebody that also inspired me in this was my mentor, Jean-Pierre Ace, that I would sometimes look at his work, and he literally also at that time got a lot of bookings at the same venues. And the way that he would photograph those weddings are so differently captured. And I just, always admired it from his work,
Mm-hmm.
and just felt to myself, it's important that you don't treat that client exactly the same as you would, because then it feels like a formula for me.
Right.
And
That's clearly, it could be a temptation for a photographer to make things easier. So say you've shot in the same location a number of times, you have your special locations that you like to shoot at, or your special way of putting things together. Because I'll just do it all over again. But this might be not the right client, or the not right. The weather may be different. There may be changes to the location. You have to be able to adapt.
Absolutely.
And you also don't want to get into, like you said, make it a formula, because then it's just a job.
Absolutely. And I think in my photography, I also love pushing, that's why I love to photograph and push clients to book me for destination weddings, or even, photograph, when I still stayed in South Africa, photograph in different parts of the country, just because it's a different location. And every time I find myself in a new location, I am inspired afresh, and just to try and, capture it with a different set of eyes. Even sometimes when I, in cases where I do photograph a destination wedding, stay a couple of days before the wedding to kind of take in the culture, as I said,
Mm-hmm.
eat the food,
Mm-hmm.
but, photograph it with the kind of eyes, still incorporate your style, but to kind of incorporate this culture or this your environment that you're in a fresh and new way.
And how does that affect your style? I mean, you mentioned before about your style, right? In terms of I guess you do more landscape, more wider shots, more
Right.
more environmental type of an approach.
Yes.
Was that a fair assessment of how you would describe your style?
Yes.
Okay.
I think my style, yes, as you said, incorporates a lot of the environment, a lot of the landscape, a lot of the composition. Just because I feel that it's just a great way of telling a story. When I studied art back in high school, it was always really incredible to kind of put together composition and paint a painting, and to understand the fundamentals of perspective and placing of your subject matter
Mm-hmm.
within a painting. And I think when I take a picture these days, I'm always thinking of kind of working up to the shot that the couple is going to frame big in their living room.
Mm-hmm.
And, kind of having that epic moment on the wedding day, like with a beautiful backdrop, or even if it's something in the reception, but it's something that they feel that this is something that it's like, this is the highlight of the wedding day in that one picture.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I love working with composition and lines and using the environment as well. I think sometimes it even is great if you maybe have a client that's a little bit more maybe insecure of how they look, is that if you have this beautiful backdrop, it's kind of, it's
It makes them less self-conscious, or I guess less worried about how they look, knowing that they're in a beautiful photo anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Of course, all clients are beautiful, right? So.
Absolutely. No, and
so
again,
I understand though. Sometimes there's personalities. some personalities are more self-conscious than others, and some people are more comfortable in front of the camera than others. That's just the way it goes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, how would you approach that? So say you have a client that is very, say, camera shy, because we've all had that. How do you approach that if someone who values photography? Obviously, they value photography. If they find someone of your caliber, they understand at least that they want a good photographer with a good reputation and a good expertise, but they're still not comfortable having their picture taken. What's your approach to that kind of a client?
I think my approach would be to win them over in the process, but it all starts from the first meeting up until the wedding day. And I think also it's your tone of voice, it's the way you speak to your client, and you also pay attention to their needs. I mean, me being a guy, and I'm quite tall, so if I walk into a wedding and there's a tiny little bride, you see, it can be intimidating, and it has happened a couple of times. But going down to their level and speaking much softer, and also if I sometimes feel that you can sometimes feel there's too much going on in the room, then I would sometimes just send everybody out, or just ask politely, can I ask you guys just to leave the room? Or kind of, if I feel that, especially if the bridal is photographing the bridal party and then moving over to the couple portraits, that if I would rather send people away for her to kind of just be relaxed, and just to be herself. I think that it's actually such an unnatural process to be photographed. To have the camera in your face the whole time. And I think most people these days are very self-conscious of that, and how they look on a camera. And also,
despite sometimes you have clients that take 1,000 Instagram selfies every day, but that's different because
that's different.
They're not doing it themselves, right?
Yeah.
I would find typically, I love your approach. I mean, it's really a matter of some personalities. That's like this, I can tell yours would be very good at this, to be able to just calm things down, create a very relaxed environment, put people at ease very easily and very quickly. Some photographers are better at that than others.
Right.
I did find too that, and I would tell this to some of my more, shy clients, that it will just, first of all, expect it to be a little bit uncomfortable at first. That's perfectly normal. I don't want you to feel like that you're odd, or that it's strange that you feel this way, because you will feel that way.
Right.
But typically after the first couple hundred photos of you clicking away, they slowly over time start to tune you out, right? And then they focus on the wedding, typically.
Right. Yeah. And I also think, Joe, one of my approaches to photographing a wedding, even, being part of the getting ready, it's kind of being a fly on the wall. Mm-hmm. Some cases I will direct, in some cases I will tell, but it's kind of also to let something naturally unfold. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, I've had a couple of times where a client would come to me and say, "You were so brilliant, I didn't even know you were there." And that kind of feels to me like, yes, nailed it.
Yeah.
And if you can capture natural moments and beautiful, photos on the day, and the client is not aware of you even being there, but just coming in at the right times and tell them, okay, giving them a little bit of direction, or maybe correcting something small, they really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Even that sense of professionalism.
Yeah, very true. So you wouldn't describe yourself as a so-called purist in terms of photojournalistic style, right? You will have some interaction or provide some direction, but not a lot.
I'm not a pure photojournalist, even though I love that element of photography. I think there's some people that are really incredible in that, and they just purely just document it, the moments raw as it is. Mm-hmm. And I think also, to be a pure photojournalist, it's like you cannot touch, kind of, direct or do anything. But I kind of, even though you set up a composition and place the couple within that within that setting, I still try to do something natural. So you have a little bit of both, have a little bit of control, but also have that little bit of freedom or a little bit of, a natural moment to kind of unfold within that setup.
Okay. And I guess, I don't know if it's correct or not, but a lot of people associate, black and white with photojournalism, but not necessarily true, obviously. Where are you on sort of the black and white versus color spectrum? Where do you tend to gravitate towards?
I'm gravitating more to black and white, and sometimes some of my clients would ask me, "Do you shoot color as well?"
Right. No, my camera only shoots black and white.
Yeah, I think what I've started to do even is at some parts of the wedding day, or even in some shoots entirely, I would photograph the whole thing in black and white. And that's the beauty of cameras these days, that you can photograph on a film preset or a camera setting or film simulation that really, that really enhances your style. And I feel by photographing in black and white, suddenly, you are taking color, you are taking the 3D element out of, photography, and you just sit with pure light, black and white, that contrast. Mm-hmm. And that makes you see composition much better. It makes you see light much better. And I feel that, I sometimes, would shoot an entire shoot or most of a wedding that way, just so that I can see how I'm going to process it later. I can always, the great thing about it is I can always, shoot a raw file and mm-hmm. always, convert it back to color again.
Sure. Do whatever you want with it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do with clients? This is more of a practical business question, I guess. So say you present your final album or your gallery or whatever it is to your clients, and there's some black and white photos, and they say, well, I really would prefer the color. Do you accommodate them? Do you argue for your position? What's your approach?
Yeah, my approach is first of all to, first edit everything in color and then edit a second batch. I know there's some people that would rather feel that, no, I would rather change, edit these images in color and that one image is black and white. I kind of want to give the client both options. I think, just so that if they want to jump between the two of them, then they have that freedom to do so. But I prefer to sometimes, if it comes to an album or if it comes to, say, album layout or even a gallery, I would put together a group of images, whether it's color or black and white, that represents the wedding much better. And mm-hmm. in that way, if, I've seen this in the past where I just put give the client access to everything. Naturally, most clients would choose the color photos just because, those are more accessible. But if I limit them and I say, these are the favorites, I would say 80%, 90% of the time, they would choose the black and white just because they feel that it is such an incredible moment in black and white.
Good answer. Okay, I have one more question for you. Then I know we are on a bit of a time limit here. You're on your way to another shoot.
Okay.
I have one more question, then we'll have some time to look at some of your photos real quick and talk about them before we sign off. But right. I want to talk a little bit more about your move, because I know in the ISPWP, I get a lot of questions from members who are moving and want help with advertising in a new location, establishing the whole market presence in their new city. So your move was, you said about 10 months ago from Cape Town to New York?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
And I guess what would your advice be to other photographers who are thinking of moving? I mean, you're not just moving a couple of miles away, you're moving around the world. That's about as big a move as you can do. So what would your advice be to those people who are contemplating that, and what do you think what is I guess the best thing that they should be doing in order to make that move successful?
Right. Yeah. I think what is important, Joe, is to to first of all go sit down and to see, you know, where, you know, what, write down a couple of reasons why you would like to move, and, you know, how it will influence not just your photography, but your whole life. I think, as I said, I had a great business in South Africa. I was popular around a lot of venues, and quite well known in the venues, and also have, you know, I just before the move, I've won Admired in Africa, the Photographer of the Year award, and at the height of my, I would say, my place where I was, South Africa, there, I start over again with kind of, I wouldn't say nothing, because I've got an incredible experience that I built up over the last 14 years, but you are starting over. So I just always tell people that are thinking, I get a lot of photographers recently that come to me and ask me, you know, I'm also thinking maybe to go stay in another country. And I first ask them, what is your motive? Because some people are either tired of the place they are in, that, you know, they feel that it might be dangerous, or it's, you know, crime is the issue, or some people are just like, I want to go and, you know, just be creative somewhere else. I think if you're moving just because of creativity, I mean, it's just, you know, it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's luck that I'm here. It's where it all worked out to me to be, and I'm in an incredible city, but you can be incredible wherever you are. You don't just have to be incredible.
Very true.
And creative. You know, if you feel like you're sitting in a little town in the outskirts, you know, in the countryside, you can be creative there too. I mean, it just all depends on your point of view. And I think also you just need to obviously see, you know, I would say go visit a place that you would like to, you know, like to move to, and to decide whether it is going to favor you. And I think also, you know, I always hold back kind of to what I've done in the past or where I came from. And sometimes, you know, at some point, a good photography friend of mine, also in South Africa, Jackie Brunikel, said to me recently, I was holding so dear to the memories and things I had in Cape Town. I just felt like, but I have so much great things here. And she said to me, it's part of your story. You can now say, you lived in South Africa. You've lived in Cape Town. Your new story is you are living in New York. And that is kind of where, you know, who knows where I'll live tomorrow or 10 years time from now. But to know that this is part of my story, and to know that if, you know, if they are open to it, the people that are thinking to maybe move to a new country, new place, that it's part of their story to embrace the new and to allow themselves to, you know, to experience, go around to, you know, meet new photographers in the area that they live in, and not just hold on to what is in the past.
Fantastic answer. I love your 2 points you made there in terms of really understand your motives of why you're moving. And because if you're not exactly clear about why you're moving, it won't be successful, and you won't put in the right efforts. And I love the quote that you said, you can be creative wherever you are. And I see that time and time again. It's people say, well, if I move, then all my problems will be solved. Well, sometimes the same problems that you have just go with you. So
exactly.
So people say
exactly the same with a camera. If I buy this camera, then I'll take better pictures.
Right. No, you're still the same
Doesn't
person.
Work.
Right, still the same person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's look at some photos. I know you have about 10 more minutes, right?
I've got about 15, so
okay, good.
Need to hustle after this, but I've got 15, so
okay.
Let's work through them.
I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so on Skype, can you see the photo that I'm sharing? Hang on, let me see. I'll go this way. Okay, so you should see the black and white photo on Skype. No?
Not sure. Not seeing it at the moment.
Okay, it says Skype. Oh, I always forget to press the start sharing button. It makes you do it twice. Here we go.
Yeah.
Is that better?
So, yeah, that's better.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you so much.
Yeah.
So I think the images that I've selected is roughly a wide variety of things and kind of little stories around them. And this photo was just an incredible moment for me. This was a wedding I photographed in Luanda in Angola, on the west side of Africa, I would say, just below the equator. And the weddings there are quite big. And this wedding was about 1,000 guests.
Wow.
They literally, this was my first big wedding that I ever photographed. And I wasn't, aware of the size and the scale of their weddings. This was literally booking a convention center and literally having 3 or 4 food sections, or like just to serve people to come through.
And you were the sole photographer?
I luckily had another photographer, but that photographer, I just literally told, anything that you see that moves and looks like a guest and looks like
shoot,
just
right.
And looks just
right.
Shoot it.
Right.
And it was also just so, and it was such an incredible feeling, just experiencing a different culture in Africa. And I mean, their weddings, they start very late. I think that wedding started like 6 o'clock in the evening. That's when you walk into the church, and the church service is 2 hours.
That is late.
And then here, they would party like this throughout the night until like 7 o'clock the following morning.
Oh my
3
gosh.
o'clock that. Yes. So 3 o'clock that evening, I said, "Okay, guys, I'm done. I'm leaving now. My batteries are finished."
Right.
But this was just such a nice moment for me in this particular wedding, that I love the moment in it, that this was kind of the new brother-in-law of the groom. Kind of just, I think Michael Jackson was playing at
right.
the moment, and he was taking out his Michael Jackson moves, and everybody was just encouraging him.
And it's always, I always say it's always great when you have a group photo and pretty much everyone has a great facial expression. That's always hard to get sometimes.
Yes.
Now, how do you light your reception? Was this the light that was there, or do you bring your remote lights, or how do you do it?
In this situation, I relied on the available lights that was there, just because I still want to capture this mood within this photograph in this way. And kind of, I love having a little, having a little bit of contrast, in the photograph that works for me in my black and white. Instead of overpowering everything with flash and having everything flat, to kind of, have a little bit of rim light on some people's faces, but to have, the spot. This was basically the venue's light, or sometimes I would, put up an off-camera flash on different sides of the room, kind of creating similar effect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get another one. Here's what you're talking about in terms of your environment and landscape integration into the photos.
This was also on a wedding day, photographed out in the garden route in South Africa. I think also living and growing up in South Africa, we have, it's a beautiful country, and also a lot of outdoor opportunities. So, beautiful landscapes, beautiful clouds, beautiful light.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. Yeah.
It's, I think, what inspired me a lot in my photography. So, in this day, this was on a game. There was a game like on a safari wedding, kind of like where there's the wild animals you can't see in the photograph. But this was just a pure moment that I kind of directed, and I just saw these beautiful clouds in the setting unfolding, and where I just, part of the couple shoot, just asked the bride to just look into a specific direction and just play around with her dress. And I just And this is the one
Simple
picture.
direction. Yeah. Makes it more natural.
Yeah. And this is where like that conversation we had earlier, just, setting up, kind of having your picture and then deciding where you want to place your subject in your environment.
Any additional lighting here, or is this all ambient?
No, all ambience. I think in the end of the day, I might have, I sometimes use the HDR mode in Lightroom just to kind of get a little bit of, I don't like too much HDR, so I don't want to make it to feel too unrealistic, but just to bring back some of the highlights in the sky and also maybe in the dress itself.
Yeah, very nice tonality there.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's go back to black and white.
Yeah, this was, I included this photo because this is coming back to that conversation which we had earlier about style shoots. This was a shoot that I did with a designer. It's a good friend of mine, Arna Tron. She made this beautiful dress, and I kind of just wanted to photograph in this location. And on the day, the wind was blowing. It was in a part of the Cape that if the wind blows there, wind is consistently blowing there. But I love the scenery in the background. It had this very, very bushy kind of, hilly environment. And I just thought that would be a great setting. And I remembered the makeup artist, keep telling me, oh, her hair and her hair is going to be everywhere. This is a mess. And I just said, leave it.
That's right.
And in this instance, I worked with the wind instead of, allowing the wind to kind of, take over. I tried to to ask the model to walk into the direction that the wind is blowing in. And I mean, it's in also using the elements, it gives you a much more natural feeling, but also, a little bit more of life. And so instead of the hair just, coming down naturally and hanging down naturally, it's adding life to the picture.
Yeah. And movement, right? Which makes it a little bit more dynamic. And like you said, the more you get to experiment and try new things in style shoots, you can carry those over to your real clients, and everybody benefits.
Right. This was another style shoot I've done now recently in New York. I'm just putting some of my recent stuff up. And again, I decided to include this one just because it's something recent, but also, I think it's, coming back again, style shoots are great. If there's new photographers out there that, you say, but I haven't photographed a wedding yet, or I want to get into wedding photography. I think this is a good place for you to experiment and to obviously, besides ghost assisting and helping another photographer or second shooting with another photographer at a wedding, to kind of get that experience. This is a great place to get to grow your portfolio as well. I mean, a lot of questions I get here from clients is, I show them all of my beautiful weddings all around the world in Africa, but then they ask me, but can you photograph a wedding in New York? I say, yes, I can. This is why I included this photo. In this photograph, I've excluded or photoshopped or removed in post-production a couple of the people here. This is in Dumbo, just between the Manhattan and the Brooklyn Bridge. And that is such a popular spot. So
it would never be empty like this.
It would never be empty like this. Yeah. And in some of the photographs, I did left the people there just kind of because I felt like it added to the photo, added to the moment. But in this photograph, I wanted the focus to be just on that model and that dress, to have that beautiful Manhattan Bridge in the background.
Yeah, the one thing I agree with you in terms of removing them when you need to. I would give some advice to new photographers who are trying to build a portfolio, learning your techniques and your styles and your approach and interaction with everybody is fine on styled shoots. I would caution you to use styled shoot photos in your wedding photography portfolio, because I'm a strong proponent of, if you're a wedding photographer, you don't want to show styled shoots to clients to say, oh, this is what your wedding will look like. It's because it's a completely different thing. So
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was day after the wedding day, and I think this was just such an incredible moment for me, because I think, on a wedding day, you get a lot of clients, that are stressed out. They worry so much, do their guests have something to drink or to eat? Are we running on schedule? And I think as a photographer, you sometimes get okay photos or great photos, but you're still waiting to get that epic photograph to kind of say, this is the shot that sells, or even, that sums up the wedding. And, I strongly advise some of my couples, I love to, see what I get on the wedding day, but I strongly sometimes suggest them to maybe, if you want to be relaxed and get, something different with a different environment maybe, or a different location, then I strongly suggest the day after shoot as well, just to kind of, play around, and also obviously the couple is so much more relaxed. Mm-hmm. And this was photographed the day after wedding, where we photographed this on the rocks in the Eastern Cape in South Africa, where at nighttime the wind was also pouring there, but I was just, again, directing them and kind of just seeing through. I shoot with mirrorless camera, so I can see through my viewfinder kind of what I'm getting, and I just underexposed it slightly to kind of, see this moment unfold. I just say, stay there. And I kind of feel like I just want to put a perfume bottle next to it and just say just put it, just use it in advertising. I don't know. That's just the feeling that I got when I photographed it.
Oh, it's a gorgeous photo. And it's the type of image where it's a combination of luck with the sky and the timing and the clients. Yes. But it's also, luck favors the prepared, and to be able to pre-envision, to use the sky to come up with a low angle so there's nothing distracting behind it, so that the couple is really, really starkly portrayed in the photo, with a wonderful connection between them and the movement of the dress. I mean, everything works so well in this image.
Yes.
Yeah. You okay on time? Got one more?
Let's do one or two more.
Okay. I'll let you dictate.
I'll dictate it. Okay. So, this one, Indian wedding that I photographed, and I, love this particular part where I felt the whole way was just so incredible. And it's also, deciding, again, you can either select a background that just does nothing for your portraits or your environment, or you can get an environment that really enhances it. And I just kind of felt that this particular part of the hotel really enhanced the groom at that point. And I felt like just placing him there and kind of, he looks so just elegant with the environment that he's placed in.
Yeah. It looks like he belongs there. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he belongs there.
Yeah. Let's do one more. Squeeze in one more for you.
Oh yeah, this one I photographed in Bali, and this is also like a natural moment that, you can't, I knew this was coming, but you also don't know how it's going to unfold. And I kind of, wanted to get this photograph to have being a little bit underexposed, not to have everything blow out, because this is fireworks basically in the middle of going, and doing the first dance. Mm-hmm. And I just, thought, setting myself up, I had two cameras during the session where I would focus on the couple here, getting the right moments, and then I have another camera that is slightly underexposed. And then I knew that moment started to unfold, and I knew he was going to dip. I took over, pick up my other camera, and just got this photograph. So I think it's also very important that if you work with things like this, that you kind of plan ahead and think ahead in your head where you want to go.
Again, luck favors the prepared, and also luck favors the experience to be able to look ahead to know exactly what's coming. Experience counts. It really, really does.
Experience counts.
Well, Dwayne, it's been a great pleasure. I really enjoyed all your thoughts, and best of luck on your establishing and moving forward in New York. And I swear,
thank you so much,
I swear one of these days I will come to New York and I will say hi.
Definitely. And I think I'm looking forward to one day finally meeting you at one of the conferences.
Absolutely.
Or, as I say, if you're ever in New York, I'll take you out for a good steak or a coffee.
I will take you up on that. So thanks again. Cool. We'll talk to you soon.
Take it.
Okay.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.